Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We're live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios. And tonight we talk about all the home teams, the New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, Tulane Greenway. We'll get into some Nichols, some McNeese. We'll talk a little Southeastern, Louisiana Tech. Also get into ULL as well. And to break it down for us, well, one of the best, Mike Detillier of WWL Radio. Mike, how you doing?
I'm
Always
doing
good
great.
to have you.
Thank you. Man, yo, patted up the windows. I can't see outside
I
anymore.
know. Well, you know what? It's going to be an ever-changing set is what I understand. But I think they did a nice job.
Yeah, they
kind of
did good.
decorating it up
They did
there.
a good job.
Yeah, give Will Hill, the director
we'll
here,
take care of
all of the
everything.
credit. All the
We'll
credit.
take care of it.
First of all, we'd like to start off talking a little bit about what's going on. Have you even jumped into your draft guide yet?
Oh, yeah. I'm well into it. I would say it's about halfway done. Mm-hmm. I know who the top seniors are.
Yes.
And that sort of thing. A lot of it has to do with juniors, and I'm throwing them in there already because if I got to take it out, it's a lot easier than putting them back in.
Yes.
Put it to you that way. So, I'm well along the way with it, and it's an ongoing process of doing it, and you sort of know who those guys are going to come out and who won't. Right. But, well along the way.
Well, let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, LSU and Alabama. And look, everybody knows at this point your relationship with Coach Orgeron. You guys grew up together, friends, still friends today. And, obviously you've been a big advocate of him getting the LSU job. And, look, a lot of people, when things were kind of, weren't going, everybody looking at Mike Detillier, want to know what's going on. I got really emotional on Saturday when I saw Ed get emotional after winning that game. I got to believe you were emotional. And talk a bit about it from your standpoint, knowing the man. Because you know what I've come to know about Ed Orgeron over these last few years is doesn't seem to have an ego.
If he has one, listen, everybody got one,
right.
But he don't have a huge one.
Right.
And, Ed, to answer the first question, yeah, it was emotional for me. I'm kind of behind the scenes. We doing post-game for Channel 4 with Doug Mouton and I. Doug had left, but, I wasn't leaving. I had to see the end of that. Even if it was the last 50 seconds, I had to see the end of it. And it was emotional for me because it's funny how your mind plays tricks on you. You think about certain things, and I thought about his dad, my dad, because that's how we sort of knew one another. My dad was working at Bollinger. His dad was working at Latelco. And through that business situation, that's how we didn't go to the same school.
Right.
And so I thought about it. I thought about his dad, who aren't here to see it. And his dad and my dad, they were concerned that Ed wouldn't get that second chance after what happened at Ole Miss. And his dad, was like, they just got to give Junior a shot. And I was like, just wait the time. And he didn't. He had the best seat in the house to watch it, like my dad did. But that was emotional for me. I'm passing to get there, and somebody stops me and is like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I think about all that. It's well over 40 years,
right.
And how much it meant for Louisiana.
Yes.
How much it meant for LSU. to have that audience. No matter your political affiliation, the President of the United States is there to watch this. Right. I was a kid and I saw Nixon go to Arkansas when Arkansas played Texas.
Yes.
And so, President Nixon had a much bigger on TV because he came on halftime after the game. He was everywhere in that game. So, it was emotional for me to see him win it. I knew how much it meant to him. I've been at those junkets. We've done a lot of different things together. And you're not there 3 seconds. Somebody's got the deal. When you're going to beat Alabama? When you're going to beat Alabama? When you're going to beat Alabama? And so, come on, that grades you. You're putting gas in your car. You go to the filling station, or who knows where it stops to eat, just like me. You get asked about it, no matter what. We did the Tiger Tour along with Gordy Rush, Jacob Hester, myself, and Coach O. We went to Homer this year, and we weren't sitting down no more than 10 seconds. Lady that Ed and I both know, she got to come get the hug and talk and everything else. And she's like, listen, baby, when you finally going to beat Alabama? And he looked at me and he said, listen, we're trying. We're going to do our best. We're trying. And when she left, he looked at me and I was like, what's going to really be good one day? When they're going to ask you, when you're going to win that second national championship. Right. He's like, Mike, listen, I can't wait. And he said, but we know we got to go through Alabama to do it. We got to go through Alabama. And I think about the day after he got the job. Him and I had a conversation about the blueprint of what he wanted at LSU. And he told me at that time, listen, I'm going to take some stuff that blueprint-wise we did at USC and Miami and sort of use it here. But he brought up to me, listen, we need a signature quarterback. And this was pre-Tua now. Right. And he said, we need a signature quarterback because it sort of tightens the gap up against a team like Alabama. And he said, once we get the first one, the rest of them will follow. And he said, do the research on this. He said, look what happened. We get Carson Palmer at USC. And he said that kind of tilted everything. Then Matt Castle, Matt Leinart, John David Booty, Mark Sanchez. So he said in a 7-year span, we got those 5 quarterbacks. 3 of them went in round 1. Yeah. So he said, listen, we can do that here, but we've got to establish that quarterback's in the right situation to do it. But he said, most importantly, if we don't win in the trenches against Alabama, we got no shot. So I thought about that a couple weeks ago in the lead up to the game. In the last 8 years, Alabama has had 6 offensive linemen that have went in either round 1 or round 2. LSU won. Ethan Posick. Yes. Defensive line, that's supposed to be the strength for LSU. In the last 8 years, Alabama has had 6 defensive linemen that have gone in round 1 or 2. LSU 3. Linebackers. LSU always, top linebackers. Yep. Alabama's had 6 first or second round pick linebackers, LSU 3. They've either doubled you or more in the most critical areas on the field. Right. And he said, if we don't get better there, we're not going to catch them. And that's why I thought they were going to win. I think that they matched up better up front. You had this signature quarterback, but you could protect him and run when you needed to. Yes. And stop the run. And they did it for a half. Then Najee goes off in the second half against them. So his blueprint is there. And I remember him adding this. He said, listen, Mike, I'm just telling you, if we can win, we not only going to be a regional team, we're going to be a national team. We're going to be able to spread our wings and get top players from everywhere. So when he told me in December, man, I'm starting to I understand the California part. He's got connections there. When he told me about Washington, D.C., and Virginia, and Maryland, I'm like, man, they've never done that. He said, listen, there's a first for everything. I'm not going to say exactly what he told me. I got to clean it up. But he's like, listen, there's a first for everything, and they're reaching out to us, and I'm going to get them. Right. If I can get them, I'm going to go after them. And it's amazing how all that is kind of set into place. And it's funny, I look back at it now, And one of the things he used to say, you know, what makes Jimmy Johnson who he was, because he coached for Jimmy at Miami, and what made certainly Pete Carroll who he was at USC was the ability to turn the page. Turn the page. Big win, disappointing loss, turn the page, go to the next. LSU under Coach O and the last few years under Les have never been in this spot. You went from the hunter, now you being hunted.
Yes.
You and I both know it because we see it in this business. Not everybody, but some. It's not the disappointments in life. We sort of used to it. You know, up and down, life gives you the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
Let somebody get a little bit of success. I'm the greatest. I can't do wrong.
Right.
It changes them.
Yes.
Changes their attitude.
Yes.
It changes the way they work. It changes the way they look. Everything changes about it. And why I say it is because he told me this a few months back. He's like, man, listen, I got to give you a compliment. I was like, okay, finally, you know, and I always got to give him the needle. He's like, man, one thing with you and Bobby J. And he said, I hope people feel the same way about me. Y'all the same way y'all were 20 years ago,
Right.
25 years ago.
Sure.
And he said, you know, treat the janitor like the CEO. Everybody's the same.
Right.
And he said, listen, man, I've met up with so many people that will compliment, you know, how you do things and how you treat people and how Bobby does it. And I said, well, listen, the same can go for you because, you know, you meet him on the street, you know, it don't matter to him who you are.
Right.
He's that type of way. But he says, you know, sometimes success does change people. And like I said, we in a business
We've seen it.
that we see it a lot.
All the
We
time.
see it. And it's not everyone,
No.
but it's a few. And you listen, you can pick them out real quick.
Yeah.
It don't take,
No, it doesn't.
you know, it don't take a police lineup
That's
to
right.
find them.
It sure don't.
And how well his team now reacts to being successful, big win, turn the page. Ole Miss, man, they don't care about what you did against Alabama. They want to upset you.
Yes.
Because then they can say, look, you know, we beat the number one team in the country. Well, I don't know about Arkansas, but I do know that that's a rivalry. I know one thing. Growing up, my grandpa, my dad, they hated Ole Miss.
Yes.
It was
a rivalry.
No, it was a deal. They hated Ole Miss a lot more than they hated Alabama.
Oh, you better believe it.
And so for Ole Miss, this is the big game for them. And I'm interested to see how the team reacts. And you won't get that emotionally charged game like you did against Alabama. You can't expect that. Sometimes finding a way to win when nothing goes right for you tells a lot about your character.
Yes.
And he would say that was the blueprint. He said Jimmy could do it at Miami and Pete could do it at USC. Maybe we didn't play a good game, but we found a way to win. I'm interested to see as Ole Miss comes up, and then you got Arkansas. Arkansas, I mean, who knows what's happening there.
Right.
But then you got A&M.
Yes.
And what would Jimbo want more than anything? Tripwire, you're right at the end of the game, the season. So I'm thrilled for Ed. I'm thrilled for Louisiana and LSU. But you know what? Come Sunday, I'd flip the page.
Yes.
Now, it's all worried about Ole Miss, and I think he's tried to do the exact same thing with his football team. He doesn't believe that putting something in someone's mind negative works. He's all about positive energy because people say, oh, tell Coach O, look what happened to the Saints.
Right.
And his deal is, man, I don't care. I don't want to put that in their heads because if they get down, you know, start, man, Coach O brought up, man, look how bad the Saints got beat. You know, he doesn't want that. Just keep fighting. Play to play, and it's cliche, snap to snap. Do your job. Listen, long before Sean Payton had that sign up on the board, that's not something Sean invented.
Right.
Do your job.
Right.
That's long been in place, and that's something Ed has preached for that football team. Do your job.
You know, you mentioned that. You talked about, you know, again, how he is with people, and that's where I kind of go with the ego thing. When people talk about LSU, they talk about Dave Aranda. They talk about Joe Brady now. They'll talk about Ensminger. He's the CEO of the team. He's the head coach of the team. This team doesn't go without him. But yet you don't hear him or get the feeling that he's worried about those guys getting the accolades. You know, now people are concentrating on Ed Orgeron based on what he's done. But all along it's been what Aranda does, now what Joe Brady does. And it takes a special guy to know, again, that you're the guy, you're the head guy, you're making the decisions, not to get your feathers ruffled, not to be, taken back because, again, some of your assistant coaches are getting some of these accolades.
For Ed, it's always about winning, and the process to get there. And he's always, about players, coaches, let them get theirs. I'm going to get mine. The apples sometimes don't fall too far from the tree. We had the Manning camp this year. And so we had this 45-minute to 1 hour interview session. And I had just finished up with Justin Herbert from Oregon, who was there. And he's trying to ask me about, listen, you got to hook me up with Bobby and see if we relate. I said, listen, dude, get your shots in real quick, because then he's going to tell you how y'all really are. The Herbert and the Abear, German kind of coordination with all that, but it's all the same. Somebody got in trouble and either put the R in it or took the R off, and they broke out. And so while we're doing this, I see his son, Cody. He's waiting for me because the interview session is over, and I had told him I'm gonna catch you. I'll catch you last. He's waiting for me, so I go walk over to him, and he was like, "Man, that voice! I didn't have to see you. I heard you. I knew it was you." But he said, when we do the interview, my dad gets all the publicity. Can I talk a little bit about my mom and my grandma Coco? Because he said, Grandma Coco's going to watch this. And I thought about that. How many 21-year-old kids thinking about that?
Yeah.
At that point, worried about that mom and the grandma, and he wanting to talk about it. And so, and Ed's like that. That doesn't bother him, Joe or Steve or Dave getting the credit. Doesn't make him any difference. It's all about winning.
Yes.
And he always brings up the point about, because he calls him Pedro, Pete Carroll. He's like, look what happened to Pedro. He was like the 5th or 6th guy that USC called. He wasn't the number 1 guy. He wasn't the 2 guy. He wasn't the 3 guy.
Yes.
Like he said, like for me, he said, I'm like the last guy they picked to go to the prom. I wanted to go with this guy, and I wanted, and he laughs about it. But, there is something to that makeup with him. And everybody's got an ego. His isn't huge to want all that spotlight on him.
Yeah.
And what you hear from him is all Ed Ogeron, because I heard Rich Eisen interview him and talking to him about, do you regret what you said against Alabama? He's like, no. It doesn't make me, he said, I don't want the phones there.
Right, of course.
But his deal is, I don't regret saying what I said.
Right.
So that's Ed being Ed. I mean, what you're going to get from him, you're going to get the truth from him. He's going to give it to you. Now, you might not like it, and I think that's why throughout the years, certain people have had his ear. If he knows you're going to tell him what he needs to hear and not what he wants to hear. And you know what? As hard-headed a Cajun as he is, he likes that. Because I thought at Ole Miss, he was a micromanager, wanting to coach every position. He didn't trust his assistant coaches, and that has all changed. And listen, he wore those players out, where they were practicing 65, 70 plays on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And then, I know Les was doing that at the end at LSU. You're leaving the game on the practice field.
Right.
Come on, it's ridiculous to do that in today's world. He changed. And I thought it was the best feature with him was that he's a great recruiter. Get him in there, man, with the mom and the dad and the grandma and grandpa and everybody else. He's fantastic. But his ability to change late in life is something hard to do.
Oh, no doubt.
Something is hard to do for all of us. Once you get a certain age, you're used to certain things. But he's done a great job, and he's delegated authority. You let Joe and Steve, and I think that's underrated. They're the new odd couple. Steve's 62 years old. Joe's 30 years old.
Right.
How well they seamlessly work together. Steve don't have no big ego. I remember Steve's first job, my neighbor Joe Clark, who basically lives not far from me. But I call him my neighbor because he's close enough.
Yes.
Steve was a GA at Nichols and working with Joe. That's the first time I met him. In a story I'll have to tell another time. And we spent a good afternoon there, just talking sports and philosophy about offensive football and everything else. And Steve was soaking all that in. Joe had coached, like I told him, Joe basically bankrupted every league other than the NFL. Joe had been in every league that went down. But I do think it's a part of Ed and people on his staff that their egos don't get away.
Yes.
It's all about putting it together to win. And now I see the quarterback situation, how he's recruited the line better and the linebackers, a national recruit team.
Yeah.
You know, and so what he dreamed the day he got the job and the day afterwards when he told me has come true today.
You talk a little bit about Joe Brady. Everybody's talking about a new contract for Brady. You anticipate that happening?
Well, yeah. Now, he'll have a lot of options. And, you know, for Joe, this is new territory. He's never been around this sort of swirl of the tornado where, can you think of another assistant coach that comes in, he's not a coordinator,
right,
and is getting all this attention?
No.
In a world that we live in with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma or Dan Mullen at Florida, or what Sean's done in New Orleans, McVay in Los Angeles, Shanahan. Have you heard anything more about any guy other than Joe Burrow? And he's not the main guy. They both work together in this. Joe's just done a fantastic job. But now it's going to be to sort out what's best for me. I'm convinced 2021 he's a head coach somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere. And the way they hire coaches in the NFL, it wouldn't shock me there at that point. But I think certainly a head coaching position in college, I know they'd love for him to return in 2020. And for some ADs, their deal is going to be, oh, come on, you had Joe Burrow. Do it with someone else.
Well, that's going to be the key next year, no doubt about that. But we can bask in the glow of what's happening right now.
All I know is Joe Burrow is a very talented player.
Yes.
And he's going to win the Heisman. I think that was
going to be one of my
questions.
He
went from great to legendary to beat Alabama. And I think sort of like Billy Cannon's run, that win against Alabama, I think sealed it for him to win the Heisman Trophy. I think for a lot of ADs, their deal is going to be prove it. Do it with Brennan. Do it with Miles.
Yes.
All I can tell you is the eyeball test tells me Miles Brennan can spin it. Now, does he have the intangibles that Joe has?
Can he read the defenses?
And the toughness.
Yes.
And quickly, I can tell you this. 2 days after fall camp started a year ago, I'm talking to Coach, and he's like, you know who Burrow reminds me of? I said, he said, no, the boy you work with. He said, Bobby J. He said, toughness. Stay in the pocket. He knows where to go with the football.
Yes.
I said, Mike, man, he's just like him. Now, he said, listen, he can't talk like him, but he said there's only 2 or 3 people in this world that can do that. But he said, you know, he's like a quiet assassin.
Yes.
That you wouldn't know if he won or he lost by his facial nothing. He just does his job, but his toughness. And we've saw him taking some big hits. Doesn't run out of bounds. Man, learn how to slide. You better do it because in the NFL they go clean your clock doing it. But I think what he brought out about the mental toughness, the ability to make all the throws, ability to read the defenses that Bobby J did, because he was at South Lafourche with Bob, and then he went to Northwestern with Bob. I think Joe has a lot of that. There are some similarities, and you look at him facially at the same time. I'm like, hey, Bob, you know, that guy looks a lot like you, you know. So I think that comparison is correct.
When you break him down, when you break Joe Burrow down as a quarterback for the NFL and for your draft guide, what are you looking at? What do you see?
One, accuracy skills. Either you're accurate or you're not.
Yes.
I can't teach you to be accurate.
That's right.
It's like if you're a C- student in any kind of math, trig, or whatever, I can give you work to maybe get you to the B, you know, but I'm never going to get you to the A. Okay, if you start out at C-, I'm not getting you to an A.
Right.
He's got it. What people said, well, look last year, his percentage. Oh, you didn't watch. This team was one of the leaders in drop passes. And that was one of the things Joe Brady brought to the table was, and he told me this in the offseason, we got to catch the ball first. None of this stuff about worried about running after the catch.
Right.
Catch it first. Then we worry about it. And you see his accuracy skills, which are just tremendous. I look at his footwork. He sets up well in the pocket. And I'm not saying I want him running anchor on the football for me in a relay team for me. But watch him. He's got the ability, okay, he senses the pressure off the edge. He moves left, he moves right, walks into the pocket. Cow! He throws a dart downfield. Listen, either you got that ability or you don't. And two is his quick mind. You're like a fighter pilot. You got to make that decision up, bang, and hope that guy's there. Because you throw into a spot. You're not sure he's going to be there. You throw into that spot. So he's got that, the footwork, the arm strength. He can make all the NFL throws. And, you know, man, I heard on Fox today, oh, he's just a short-range thrower. What? Have you been watching this? No, Fox is in their agenda now today about, and I'm all for it too, an 8-team playoff. But why do they want it so much? It's not so much they want the 8-team. Look what's on their network, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10. It helps them more than anybody else.
Sure it does.
So don't fling me that. I see where it's coming from, and I'm in agreement, 8-team playoff.
I would agree with it.
But you beating that drum because you want money headed back into the Fox network, and I get it. That's part of where you're working at. But Joe's fantastic, and it'll be a dead heat. Everybody's going to have a different opinion on the top quarterback in this draft range. Some people are going to have 201, Burrow, Herbert. Some people, and I've talked to them in the league, they got Herbert 1. They got Burrow 2 or 3. It's just going to be opinion. It's like 2 years ago, other than Cleveland, nobody had Baker Mayfield as the top quarterback.
Yes.
They had one of the two. It was either Sam Darnold or Josh Allen. Now, I was told by people in the Browns organization, had they not picked Baker Mayfield, they would have picked Josh Allen. They were going to pass on Sam Darnold. But I think most people had Sam at the top of the list. So you're going to have a split decision here on what you want to do. I know one thing. If it's Cincinnati, I know where Joe's going.
Of course.
Yeah, he's going back home. He's going to Cincinnati.
Yep. What about his ability to read defenses? We see it now in college.
Phenomenal. He's just such
does that come from his dad?
I think
being a coach?
You grow up in that environment.
That's what I'm saying.
You know it, and he studies film. He's coach-like. You know, he's in there watching film early in the morning, late. He understands concepts, but also, too, you got to have the ability to make the throw.
Right, and the quick decision.
And to have that ability, he's got a real quick release. The ball comes out fast, but he sees the field real well. It's almost like a great runner with that peripheral vision that you can see sideline to sideline so well. He does a great job with it. He does have some great receivers now. I mean, listen, he's taking a step down when he goes to the pros. I mean, with Jamar and Terrace and Justin, you know, a lot of teams that got that type talent.
All first-round picks, those guys?
I was doing a show with Moscona this evening. And my thing is Jamar Chase for 2021. There's no receiver that's going to get picked ahead of him.
Right.
I think Terrace is a first-round pick. There'll be some question marks about the injuries, but I think he's a first-round pick talent. The most underrated guy is Jefferson. And where are you going to put him? Because in many ways, he reminds me of Cooper Kupp in that he's not the biggest, the fastest. He won't have a 45-inch vertical jump.
Yeah.
Just watch it. Great route runner. He sets you up. Terrific hands.
Yes.
And in critical situations, doesn't Joe go to him? Joe trusts he's going to be in that spot, and I'm going to get it to him. He reminds me so much of Kupp. Kupp ended up going in round 3, which is almost shocking.
And look at him right now.
Look at what he's been able to do. I'll never forget Archie telling me this. Afterwards, he was like, he went round 3. You know, he's like, what, 60-something guys get picked ahead of him? Ain't no way that 60-something guys are better than him in this draft class. And Cooper's done that. And I think Jefferson is very similar in his high points and maybe what people might question about him.
Right. Of course, Archie played with his grandfather, Jake Kupp, who was an original Saint back in, 1960?
67, Jake.
Jake was.
Yeah, Joe.
Right.
And then his dad played. His dad was a backup quarterback in the NFL. So, and I remember Cooper telling me because he came to the Manning camp 3 straight years. He was like, there wasn't a lot of teams looking for me. But he
Yeah.
said, look, the genetics I had, and they still passed on
Right.
me. You know, so it's amazing.
He's a heck of a receiver.
Oh, today,
Yeah.
he's a heck of a receiver because he knows how to get separation. He knows how to set you up. And if you don't give him respect, he's
Right.
going to run right past you.
Going to take a break. We come back. I want to ask you about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I also want to talk about the significance of this game, not just for Louisiana, for the program, for Ed Ogeron, and of course for recruiting, because it's, you know, this is going to be this was a big game for recruiting as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll be right back after a word from our underwriters.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest tonight. Mike, I talked about in the beginning of the season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You look at the Saints offense, they have a dynamic back in Alvin Kamara. Looking at John Embry, what he did at Destrehan, what he looks like he's going to be in the future at LSU. Davis Price, the physical runner. I said, yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire can block. He's not a bad back, but he's not the dynamic back they need. I apologize on the radio show on Monday. I apologize on this show as well to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and his family. Where would LSU be without Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year?
Listen, the one thing, they have so much trust in Clyde. He knows what to do on every play. Mm-hmm. He's a really good pass protector, which is why you didn't see Emory and Tyron early in the season, because they had played the teams that were coming hard blitzing. Clyde's such a super receiver coming out the backfield, but it's his toughness, his vision, his ability to make people miss in space, and then if you don't respect him, he's got some glide to Clyde. You know, he can cut that corner and he'll go with it.
That spin move is something else.
And I told him this, that he reminds me of a 6'1" running back that got put in a press and they squashed him down to 5'6". He's all muscle. You know, man, he's got some legs on him, and if you're trying to knock him, you better get a good shot. And you never get a good leverage shot on him because he's cut sort of short, and he's got a heart of a champion. You know, and Ed always says that, you know, he's 5'6" and 200 pounds, but when he walks in the room, he's 6'4", 290 pounds. He's terrific player, really sharp. He understands what he has to do, and he's talented. In a lot of terms, he reminds me of Dalton Hilliard.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Dalton. Dalton wasn't a real big guy. Dalton was 5'8.5" or whatever, and around the same size, 200 pounds, 205. But Dalton had the ability to make you miss in space. He was a great receiver. Dalton could pass protect.
Yes.
He could do all those things. And at LSU, who was everybody clamoring for? Play Gary James more, right?
Oh, yeah. I remember back in the day.
And Gary was a really good player.
Yeah, he was.
But that was a reason why Dalton was the guy.
Yep.
And there's a reason why Clyde's the guy at LSU. And to think about, you know, him coming out, a lot of people looked at him and saw that, man, look all the numbers he's put up. But then when you see him, you say, can that little guy play?
Right.
You can't build a team on exceptions, but there always are exceptions to the rule. I think about Justin. When he came out of Destrehan, he was a 2-star recruit.
Right.
Okay? they weren't in line for Jefferson.
He was the last guy. It was the last guy that was, right.
And Ed saved that scholarship.
Right.
And he told me, listen, we're saving it. He said, going to get eligible, we're going to sign it. The other guy, too, is Lloyd Cushenberry. Okay? Lloyd was an afterthought And there were some people at LSU that kept hammering to Les, you got to get Cushenberry that scholarship. He was hard-headed. He wanted the 5-star recruit. When that guy walked away, Lloyd was going to South Carolina. He had committed there. They came back at the end, and Lloyd gets that scholarship. So you look at it. You got a backup quarterback at Ohio State who couldn't start there.
Right.
Now he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. You got a 2-star recruit in Justin Jefferson, who's one of the best in the country. Look at Clyde, 5'6", 200 pounds, and what he's done. Cushenberry at a critical position at center, and what he's been able to do. Sometimes it's not, you would like to get as many 4 and 5 stars as you can. Always exceptions.
Can't measure the heart.
Can't measure what you got in between those ears and what you got here.
Yep, no doubt. Speaking of recruiting, this is obviously huge for recruiting. LSU's got the #1 recruiting class in the nation right now. Looks as though, again, Ed's going to be able to kind of pick and choose who he wants going forward, especially if they can win this national championship. How big was this Alabama game for recruiting?
I don't know if it makes an impact for 2020, but I bet it makes a big impact for 2021 in the short term. And 2022, Ed's already recruiting for 2022.
Yes,
which is, but that's just the recruiting world today. 25 verbal commitments already. I think that you may have a player or two leave,
right,
and the commitment. They would like to get a couple offensive linemen, and there's a special running back out in Texas they would like to get. So we'll see how it ends up, but they've done a phenomenal job. They've sold the program.
Yes.
And at the end of the game, it was to watch as a lot of the LSU players run toward the sideline where all the Alabama recruits that they were recruiting were, and telling them, hey, listen, come to LSU. Now, if that was planned, I don't know nothing about if it was planned or not, but that certainly seemed to be an odd thing to do at the end of the game if you thought of it yourself. And they went, hey, and they were selling LSU. Now, one thing what Ed's done that I think Les didn't embrace as much is to embrace the LSU former players.
Yes.
Ed's done a fantastic job doing that. And former players coming in and him recognizing them and that sort of thing. And listen, if they want to see it at practice or they want to help out, hey, he's all for it. A few weeks back, and people may laugh at this, Jamarcus Russell was there. He was working with Joe Burrow and Miles Brennan.
Wow.
You know, because now he lives in Baton Rouge now and working with that. So I think that's a big thing today. I really do. I think that's something that had to be done, and Ed's done a good job, and he knows it. And I think it was the first week I saw he took a picture with Crockett, Ronnie Estee, and Arthur Cantrell.
Right.
You know, growing up where I grew up, man, you heard some stories about, I mean, Crockett was a great player, and Arthur, he was an unbelievable player, too, at LSU. So goes to show he took that embrace. Tommy Casanova coming in. Burt Jones, who we've have talked about, you know, Ed has talked to him numerous times. Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson, you see those guys at the practice sessions. So it's been a big thing for LSU.
Stay with history for a moment. Where do you put this win in the history of the program?
Whoa. It's certainly, as far as regular season wins are concerned, probably top 3. I think certainly understanding the magnitude of the game and who you beat, and you had virtually no success offensively against them for 8 years, I think it's probably top 3 regular season games that you were able to win. And you did it against, and I know he was hurt, but you did it against maybe the best offensive player that's ever put that jersey on at Alabama under Nick Saban. Under Nick. I mean, you think about Tua and the type of player he is. Man, and listen, I give him a lot of congratulations. Listen, he showed a lot of heart in that game going out with that ankle. But, you know, we sitting there watching it, and it's like somebody pinch me. Okay, Tua, he's not going to get the touchdown, and the ball pops out, and it's a fumble.
Right.
The punter gets it, the ball hits him in a bad spot right between the hands, and he fumbles it.
Yes.
Then at the end of the second quarter, Patrick Queen undercuts a throw and makes it. And it's like, okay, someone pinch me. This can't be, because you would see that normally happen to LSU, not to Alabama. And, Alabama, listen, and I give Nick a lot of credit. And when the stars came out, you saw Najee Harris and Tua and those guys, man, in the second half, they were pedal to the metal, but they never stopped LSU offensively.
Right.
So don't give me this stuff about played another quarter, they'd have won. They couldn't have stopped Joe. I didn't see him stop Burrow.
Right.
And he missed 2 throws in open receivers in that game.
I want to move on, and I'd like to quickly go through Tulane and the rest of the colleges. I want to get to the Saints and, of course, the debacle that was the Atlanta Falcons. Tulane, big 3 games here to really kind of step up and to really make their season. I talked about it earlier this week. They got to quit being the little engine that could. It's about time that Tulane breaks through here. They got an opportunity at Temple, UCF at home, at SMU. It's not going to be easy. But again, an opportunity to be more than just, be satisfied with back-to-back bowl wins. Talk about this Green Wave team.
I agree with you. And this was also the spot a year ago. Justin McMillan beat that chest. I'm the guy.
Right.
He's got to be the guy now.
I agree.
You got to get great quarterback play when you're playing up against the Central Floridas and Memphises and SMUs of the world.
Yeah.
You got to get great quarterback play. And you've got talent at the receiving position. I think the big thing for Tulane they got to get better at is getting off the field on third down defensively. Because, again, this is a conference made up of moving the ball. But you're going to give up yards, just don't give up scores.
Right.
You got to get off the field. And it's been a kind of a rough road defensively this year, where I thought they would be better on that side of the football. I knew the secondary wouldn't be as good because 2 of those guys in the NFL.
Right.
But I thought they'd have a little better defense against the run, where teams have had some success.
Yes.
And they've shown the penchant. We're going to keep banging at you a little bit. So I think it's a huge 3-game stretch because you got to get great quarterback play. I think that's when the stars of this game can step it up, and Justin did it a year ago.
He did.
And also, too, with the running back core they've got, I know they've had some injuries there, of playing a little keep away. Because I do think the good team, they're not built like LSU to quick score 4 or 5 plays and it's in. I think there is a wear down. And I think the biggest thing I see in college football from when I first started doing this, and even 10 years ago, the lack of quality depth on defense. I keep you on the field 75, 80 plays. I got you in my pocket. You ain't winning a lot of those games because I'm going to wear you out. Your second team isn't that good anymore. Or you playing young kids in there. So I think it's crucial for Willie. I do think he can fall back and say, hey, listen, we did it a year ago. This is when we made our run. And I hate to throw it all on Justin, but I do think that's a crucial spot for him.
Also, turnovers and penalties have really hurt this team this year.
No, you sloppy.
They got to be much more disciplined down the stretch here.
That's some mental errors on concentration and focus when you start to make penalties there. But also, too, big plays on defense. Come up with the turnover in that spot, and that's where your edge rushers, hey, that's where it's got to come around for Tulane. 2
other teams that are ranked right now, Louisiana Tech, ULL have received votes. Again, LSU's not the only team that's ranked here in this state right now.
No, man. I've watched Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. Man, Billy Napier's done a great job offensively. Similar to Tulane, he's got 3 backs, and he alternates them. And they do a great job. They got a huge offensive line. Hunt is going to the Senior Bowl. And the other young man is going to the East-West Shrine game. So you got some big people up front. They played good on the defensive side, the football. They're aggressive to the football. That quarterback, man, listen, he gives you a lot of trouble because of his speed. But, man, those threesome at the running back position, they hit you every which way but loose. And they've been able to jump on teams very quickly. But I love what they do defensively because they are so aggressive. Yeah, okay, you're going to make a mistake, but they get after you, putting pressure on the quarterback, and also they can run the field extremely well. Man, listen, I don't know how long Billy Napier's got there, but you talking about a guy that one day he's going to be a Power 5 head coach and a good one. He's a real sharp guy.
FCS, McNeese, Southeastern, and also
let me not forget Louisiana Tech, too.
Right, Louisiana Tech, yes.
What you see with Coach Holtz every year offensively, it sort of looks the same.
Right, it does.
It's almost like they change players, but they do a great job offensively. Defensively, because Ferguson was such a great pass rusher a year ago, you didn't know, was that all because of a lot of pressure? And they got a superstar in the secondary in Amik Robertson. I mean, I'm not talking about a good player. I'm talking about a superstar player. He's from Thibodeau High School. He's all of 5'9", and I may be stretching it, but he's in that area.
Right.
And he's one of the guys Ed and I differed about when he came out. I told Ed, you got to get him. And he was like, well, we have to a couple other guys. And all of a sudden, he called me one day and said, listen, we're going tonight. We're going to offer him. But he had already made up his mind. Louisiana Tech had brought him to the dance.
Yeah. That's
who he was going to dance with. God put you sometimes in the right place, right time, and Amik has done a fantastic job. You watch Tech. They moved the football extremely well. They play pretty good defense.
Yes.
But, man, you got to watch Amik Robertson because I think he may be one of those guys that becomes a finalist for the Tharp Award.
Wow.
He's
really?
that good of a player, man. And I'm so proud of him, understand his background, how he grew up and everything. But I'll never forget Frankie Monica, St. Charles Catholic. I go talk at the quarterback club for Frank, and he pulls me aside and he said, man, let me tell you something. That Amik Robertson you told me about, he's good, Mike. And he said, he's this good. I played against Odell Beckham 3 years. He's a better player than Odell Beckham was in high school.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
And listen, Frankie, he don't stretch. Most of the time he's bad. Oh, man, I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing. It's like he told me when they played Newman, I don't know how we're going to stop Arch and all this and that. And he ended up getting a W out of it.
Talk about those three teams in the Southland, McNeese, Southeastern, and Nichols.
Man, I think about Southeastern last year in that final game, and they just – Nichols took the belt out and spanked them, but good. And – Coach Selfo has just done a tremendous job, attitude-wise, on that football team. And last week, on the road against the top-ranked team in the Southland, they don't just beat them; they beat them up, so to speak, with a transfer quarterback who's a big kid who's kind of bounced around, but he can sling it. But man, Frank has done just a fantastic job.
He really has.
You think about where they were a year ago and where they are today. And he squeezed all the vitamin C he could out of that orange. McNeese, it'll be interesting this weekend. I'll be at that game. McNeese, Nichols State. Coach O's son, Cody, is going to be the quarterback there. They've done a great job offensively. Cody don't have Ed's size. Man, he moves a lot better than O ever did. And he can sling it. He's a really good runner. And I've always felt, Eric, that team had the most potential of anybody in Louisiana other than LSU because of where they sit. You're in Southwest Louisiana, where you can pick and go right across the border in Texas. You can get players around there, and occasionally they get kids from the Bayou River Parish area. So to me, they've always been the sleeping giant. And, man, they've been on a hot roll. Nichols, kind of an up-and-down season for them with Coach Rebo. But, man, Chase Forcade, I mean, I can't say enough about him. He has been a savior for that program. Julian Gums has carried that team on his back as a rusher because of injuries. And if you want to watch a guy that'll play at the next level, and I don't know where he's going to play, if he's going to play defensive tackle or middle linebacker, Sully Lesh from Letcher High School. And Sully is phenomenal. And I've seen this at the high school level, but I can't say I've seen it at the collegiate level. He's triple teamed.
Wow.
And yet his sack totals continue to go up. He's just a phenomenal football player. Had back surgery early in the season, has come back. He's just been unbelievable talent. So you think about what that meant. Chase and Sully for that Nichols State program. And Tim's the right man, right spot.
Let's grab a couple calls before we talk some Saints. Hal is in West Wego. Hey, Hal. Welcome to Inside New Orleans.
Hey, you guys. Man, Mike, you said something a little bit earlier that will just knock me out. I've been thinking about this all year. So Joe Burrow comes to LSU last year, and they did well, but, man, he blossomed this year like magic. And when you were talking about your relationship with Coach O and about Coach O saying, yeah, well, now we need a top-flight quarterback to make a difference. Do you know the story? Can you tell the story about how did this all come together with Coach O, Joe Brady working with Ensminger, and all of a sudden this happens?
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you, you know who gave Coach O the first indication that Burrow may leave was his son. Mm-hmm. They watched the spring game. He said, Dad, that guy's not staying at Ohio State. He's leaving. And it was actually Steve who went to Coach O in December and said, we got to run the spread offense.
Right.
Look at all the talent we have in the state at wide receiver. Joe's the right guy. Let's go with the spread. Now, the story behind the story is Pete Carmichael and Joe Brady had went to LSU and showing them passing concepts. And Steve was so impressed with Joe Brady. And he went on and on and on about it.
Right.
And Ed was, man, it's really something that, Steve has really talked up Joe Brady. And so Ed told me, listen, we're going to go after Joe, but I got to wait till after the season's over with. I've talked to Sean, and he's told me, hey, listen, just wait till after the season's over with, and you can talk to him. But it's the relationship between the two guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and they are the football odd couple. Right. When, you talk to Joe and you talk to Steve, you talk about the odd couple it is, but how well they've worked together. And Steve's ego is not too big that he's going to say, you know what, that's a really good play. That's not my play. And they made it just work beautifully out on the field. A lot of that Saints concept, you can see it.
Oh, you can see it.
You can see it.
You can definitely
and
see
so Steve has been able to work with Joe, and you don't see that often in this world.
Yeah.
Two guys
right.
that
Again,
can work
egoless.
like that just made it work.
Right.
And Ed stayed out of it. And I know Ed every once in a while was, hey, listen, we need to run the football a little bit more. But a lot of the concepts are Saints concepts that Joe Brady brought to the table here. And I don't want to take anything away from Joe. Could they have done that with any other quarterback?
Right.
Is Burrow the guy?
Right.
And he is so smart, and it fit him just right.
Yes.
Everything worked out, and almost like all the cards were lined up for you to get that.
Let's grab Larry and Kenner. Larry, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Larry.
Eric and Mike, the two best in the business at what they do. How you doing, Larry? And who that truck, Mike?
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, Larry, what's going on, brother?
Hey, buddy, I got a question. Do you think Burrow's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner this year? And what the world happened to our Saints and what they got to do to turn this around? Love y'all show, Eric.
Thank you, buddy.
I'll sit back and listen to y'all answers. Have a good evening.
Yes, I do think Burrow wins the Heisman. It happens in pro football. You weren't mentally and emotionally ready to play.
Why?
Listen, that's hard to explain.
Why? I mean, again, you're coming off a bye week. They've done well in a bye week.
They have.
I mean, look, I got on the leadership of this team this week. I got on the coaching staff of this team this week. You don't let that happen. You don't lose to Atlanta. Now, it's 2 conference losses, 1 division loss. It may be a blip on the radar screen before it's all said and done, but we've come to be accustomed to those guys coming out of a bye week and playing well. And to be honest with you, they were not ready to play. They got dominated on both sides of the ball.
The score is no indication of how bad they got beat.
No doubt.
And a lot of people don't like to hear that.
No, it's the truth.
But here's the other part of it. We live in a world where it's either we're going to win every game,
right,
or, oh, my God, we've fallen apart. Okay, just calm down.
Sure.
It was a 1-game blip. You weren't ready to play. And give Atlanta credit. They came to play. Here's the thing where you had always won in the trenches.
Yes.
You got beat up.
All week, with every game, with the exception of Los Angeles, every game this year you've won.
You got in a street fight and you got beat up. Atlanta could not run the football, and they could not protect Matt Ryan. We talked about it on the pregame show.
Right.
That's what was the stellar points for them to win in years past. Okay, Ryan got sacked once. They rushed over 130 yards, and they carried over 30 carries. I've given that stat before with the Saints. The Saints rushed your football 11 times.
11 times.
You ain't winning nothing with that. This is a team walks in, they had 7 sacks in their pocket. They got 6 in one game.
18 pressures.
So here's my deal. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure out how you got beat. And one of the things that's strange, And we talked about it with Sean a few weeks back about in years past, this team had gotten off to fast starts, scoring a lot of points early in games.
Right.
One touchdown.
Right. They're
Harris is returned. That's it. Okay. And Sean sort of bit a little bit on it. He was like, well, if we watch your film, you see why. We're just not executing right. And he takes that personally because you know what? Those plays are scripted.
Yes, they are. That's the thing that is the thing that is really puzzling about this, because they are scripted, and you've always seen this team be very, very prolific in the first quarter because they are scripted.
Has not happened this year. And it's strange how, every year you've seen that. And then this year, that's way away from the script. So, this is a one-game blip. We walk into the pregame, and I tell it, Stay Bear, I said, you know what? They're going to have a clunker against the Bucs. I thought it would be this weekend.
This week, right.
Because the Bucs are a strange team.
Yeah, and that's a strange place to play.
It's mercurial because you're catching a quarterback you don't know what he's going to do from week to week. But I do know one thing. Mike Evans and Godwin are two big-time receivers.
How about this week without Lattimore?
And now you not playing without Pete, which, I try to tell people before the season, oh man, Pete, trade him for this, trade him for that. Come on. My thing is, be real. Oh, we got guys that can step in. Well, I saw the next guy. He got beat up.
Right.
And so you're not going to have that security blanket anymore without Andrus there. And this team's going to have to go out in the offseason and get a veteran starting guard. Don't tell me he's on the lineup, because that's not the case. You're going to have to go out and get one. And now Lattimore's down.
Yes.
And you could always count on him to go one-on-one with the top receiver like he did Evans and shut him out. Now you don't have that.
Well, the rest of the guys are slot guys, right?
Pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much. And so now you got a situation where you're playing to the Bucs' strength as a football team, their ability to pitch and catch the ball. So you better affect Jameis quickly. And you better get points on the board quickly.
Right, and got to win in the trenches, something you didn't do against Atlanta.
Again, most people don't watch the play of offensive, defensive line. That's where you win. They watch because most people watch the ball.
Right, of course.
You watch inside and see what happens against the Falcons. You got beat. You didn't get beat. You got beat up against the Falcons. And all I know is, you watch Grady Jarrett. You're on a bad team. Man, watch how hard that guy
plays hard.
He's not only a talented player, great effort every snap.
Yep, no doubt about it. Mike, as always, appreciate you being part of the
program. Thank you, Eric.
Program.
Appreciate it.
That's Mike Detillier. I'm Eric Asher. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television. That's 9 p.m. every single Friday night. You catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1, FM HD2, and the iHeartRadio app. That is noon to 2 weekdays. Listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of this program can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guest, Mike Detillier, tonight. Also to our underwriters, we appreciate them very much. Also to our production staff here at WLAE, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alice Chacon, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be right back next week with another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.